Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Alyssa Corum here with Ken Shreve, reporting to you from our newsroom in Los Angeles. And on today's show, we're breaking down the chart action for AMD, ServiceNow, and Adobe, which is issuing its quarterly report after the bell today, so we will be keeping tabs on that. But in the meantime, let's take a look at the major indexes. The Nasdaq closed up 1.4%, the S&P up 1%, the Dow also up 1.4%. But if you take a look at the chart of the Dow, we were up over 2% earlier, but I think still nonetheless a pretty strong session.
Yeah, I think you'd have to call it a positive session. There was good volume behind the move today, volume on the Nasdaq and NYSE, looking about 20% higher than what we saw on Monday. Bullish gap up for the Nasdaq above its 50-day moving average. Strong day for semiconductor stocks. It was interesting before the open, about 2 to 3 hours before the open this morning, stock futures were only up about 0.2%, 0.3%, and then Mario Draghi, who's the European Central Bank chief, kind of hinted that he was considering more stimulus, which was kind of a change in tone from recent months. The market liked that, and of course we've got a decision on interest rates tomorrow by the Federal Reserve, so we could see some fireworks tomorrow. But overall, a bullish session.
We could, and it looks like the next hurdle for the Nasdaq will be that 8,000 level once again. So we're hitting resistance at the 50-day. Now that 8,000 level, the next psychological marker.
Yeah, and I remember last week you and I were talking about the fact that even though the Nasdaq was getting some resistance at the 50-day moving average, it was encouraging that the Dow and the S&P 500 were kind of holding above the 50-day moving average after rising above it. So, bullish performance for the Nasdaq today. And at last check, the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index up maybe 4.5%. So, good showing for chip stocks.
Yes, a good showing for chip stocks indeed. We have AMD shares gaining 4.3% today, retaking a buy point after logging declines for about 5 sessions in a row. So this one may be a little tough to handle here, a little wild around this buy point, but good to see it back in buy range with volume that was slightly above average.
Yeah, and higher than what we saw Monday. So, I mean, it was generally a fairly orderly pullback for Advanced Micro Devices during its 5-session losing streak. And
right, volume wasn't too overwhelming.
No, it wasn't. I mean, it really just didn't have the feel of massive institutional selling as the stock was pulling back. But again, today's gain came in higher volume than what we saw yesterday, reclaims the buy point. We're still in a confirmed uptrend. This one is still well within buy range from that 30.05 entry. And again, when you look at turnaround stories in the market, there's the Advanced Micro Devices is a pretty compelling one. Big annual earnings estimates thanks to new products, and it's really one of the only good-looking charts in the chip sector right now.
Yeah, AMD definitely leading those chip stocks. And we also want to take a look at a leader out of the software space, ServiceNow, entering a buy range today, climbing above a 281.84 buy point with a 3% gain here today, hitting new high ground. So again, ServiceNow, one of the names out of the leading software sector that is looking really good right now.
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 times this company reported earnings, it gapped up powerfully. So when really leading growth stocks often present additional opportunities to buy, and ServiceNow is no exception. So even if you missed the gap up over the 200 price level and then another gap up over 250, it formed a nice little flat base here. And you mentioned the latest buy point, 281.84, and the stock closed up near its high for the session at 282.63. Another example of a stock that's still well inside the 5% buy zone.
Yeah, and even with those few gap ups, this still isn't a late stage breakout yet, because that consolidation from a little while ago, that breakout in January, that reset the base count.
Reset the base count, so arguably, potentially in the early stages of a move here. And again, with growth stocks, you kind of want to buy a stock in the early stages of a move, not the later stages. And you mentioned that consolidation that ServiceNow broke out of was enough to reset the base count. So still looks early stage for ServiceNow.
Yeah, we are definitely keeping tabs on ServiceNow. And elsewhere in the software space, Adobe issuing its quarterly report after the bell. We're keeping tabs right now. It looks like the early reaction is negative. negative. Shares tracking down about 3.4% so far in the after hours session. And for Adobe, which is holding in this base pattern here, I mean, we'll have to see what happens tomorrow. Yeah. But analysts were expecting, I think, earnings growth of just 7%, and that's the slowest earnings growth in quite a while. Sales growth has been continually strong in the 23 to 27% range, but it's continually seen decelerating earnings growth.
Yeah, not the best of signs. I mean, this still is a Nasdaq 100 bellwether and a company, even though sales have been decelerating in recent quarters, still widely regarded as one of the leaders in the software sector. And you can see on the daily chart here, it had a pretty sharp pullback down to the 260 level. It corresponded basically with a bounce off its 200-day moving average, which is that dark line there. And there were sellers in the stock today. It tried to get up close to the 280 level, finished near its low for the session. It was working on a base with a 291.80 buy point. Stock has been volatile. It was down early and after hours, and now it looks like it's higher. So we'll see what it looks like tomorrow. But it's still, it's still a breakout candidate. We'll see what it looks like in the morning.
That's right. It finished the regular session about 5% below that potential buy point. So we'll have to see what the action is like come tomorrow. All right, everyone. And guess what? 2 of the stocks that we talked about today are on IBD's leaderboard, and it's leaderboard free access week, isn't it, Ken?
It's free access week, so you can go in and see which stocks are in the leaderboard portfolio. We just finished up a good webinar today that's going to be accessible on the website, I believe. So it's all about leaderboard right now. You can access leaderboard for free through Sunday and take a look at what the leaderboard portfolio looks like and look at how we annotate charts with buy points and sell signals, and we do a lot of the work for you for leaderboard, so check it out.
Yes, definitely want to take advantage of that this week. All right, everyone, thanks so much for joining us, and you can always check out the latest market news and analysis at investors.com and all of our content across social media. Make sure you're following us, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter, so you can stay up to date on all the latest. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.